Well, as that political unrest continues in Burundi, the country is also experiencing an increase in refugees fleeing into nearby Tanzania. Steve Williams is Plan International's emergency response manager there, and he joins us tonight. Steve, good to talk to you, although very difficult times for Plan. Give us a sense of what's happening on the border.
Yes, good evening. It is a very worrying time at the moment. I've spent the last 6 weeks on the border between Tanzania and Burundi, and we've seen approximately 60,000 refugees come into Tanzania, and they've occupied a camp which is about 3 hours away from inland from Lake Tanganyika, where they've settled along with about 60,000 Congolese refugees that have been here for several years. So there's massive overcrowding in the camps, real humanitarian concerns, and this might just be the beginning. We're expecting more refugees to come in shortly.
Yes, indeed, and we've seen that both the European Union and the African Union have decided not to observe the election, which gives a sense that the scale of the problem is only going to get bigger.
I think that's undoubtedly correct. UNHCR at the moment is predicting between another 50,000 and another 150,000 refugees to cross the border in the next coming weeks. And even though the aid agencies are doing their best to be able to provide services for this refugee population, at the moment we just can't keep up with the scale of the emergency and with the influx. During the whole of June, we've had about 250 new arrivals entering into Tanzania every day. And in the last few days, as we run up to the parliamentary elections and then the presidential elections, which are coming up in a couple of weeks, we've seen those numbers rise to 1,000 a day, and we're expecting them to continue to rise.
Steve, we know, of course, that there is that ever-present reminder of the genocide and that ethnic divide that was so terrible for Burundi. Is that what's driving this, or is it more this political uncertainty at the moment?
At the moment, we think that the conflict is essentially political, and the political differences that are occurring in Burundi has led to violence which started in the capital but has now had its impact and its effect all over the country, is leading to people to try to seek safety in neighbouring countries. The problem is political instability in this region can very easily turn into ethnic conflict and tension, and we've seen the devastating consequences of that in the past. And for this reason, the aid agencies that are working in this area are desperately trying to get more attention to this crisis so that we can get it under control before it escalates into something much, much worse.
And we know, sadly, that often women and children are the first victims of that kind of violence that breaks out.
Absolutely, and we've seen that here. Over 60% of the refugees at present are under the age of 18, so there's huge numbers of children in this refugee population. And as a child-focused organisation, one of our principal concerns is the number of unaccompanied children that have had to flee without their parents, without any relatives. So you've got people in these camps that have got nobody looking after them, they've got no guardians. We're doing our best to set up child-friendly spaces, which are spaces where children can go, they can be protected, and they can get services from trained social workers. But as I say, as more and more refugees come across the border, we will need to scale up our activities, and the resources simply aren't there at the moment. Another major issue that we've got is the amount of trauma that these children are showing. When we go and speak to them in the camps, it's clear that they've seen some very, very harassing things in Burundi. I think one of our assessments showed that 75% of all the refugees coming across had seen a civilian being killed. And just imagine the type of trauma that this causes to a young child and the impact that can have on their life and their future. So we're doing our best to be able to provide them services and psychological support, but the needs are very big and they're getting bigger.
Indeed. Well, we thank you for that work, and thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you very much.